Welcome to NucleCast, the official podcast of the NY Deterrence Center. Each week, we bring you leading experts for a lively discussion on topics related to strategic nuclear deterrence. Our host is Dr. Adam Lowther, Director of Strategic Programs at the National Strategic Research Institute. The views of the hosts and the guests are their own.
Welcome back to another great episode of NucleCast. Of course, I am your host, as always, Adam Lowther. And you may not have known this, but because we, of course, had plenty of episodes that we recorded, but I took a little time off a couple weeks ago, went to Colorado right as Kansas City was crossing the triple-digit mark. And instead of spending the week in KC in 107-degree heat, I was up in the mountains where it was in the 40s and 50s. And I tell you what, Colorado is a wonderful place and I enjoyed the hiking. But now we're back to recording episodes. And of course, as our first guest back, we have a great guest, somebody whom I've known for probably at least 15 years, I'd say. And of course, that is Major General retired Garrett Harencak, whereas we knew him in the Air Force, SAC, who is now the president of the Nevada National Security Site, where there is a lot of interesting work going on. We're not testing, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. And so, SAC, welcome into the show, and thanks for coming on to talk to us about what you're doing out at the Nevada Test Site.
Well, it's great to see you again, Adam, and it's great to be talking with you today. And also, I just got back from Colorado myself. Las Vegas was 112 when we left. So I got back last night from Colorado. So excited to be here. And I'm excited about my new opportunities. We've known each other, like I said, probably 15, 17 years. And the latter portion of my Air Force career was in the nuclear business. I retired. When I retired out of the Air Force in 2018, I went to work for a company called Jacobs Engineering. And Jacobs is one of the three companies that make up the Mission Support and Test Services company that runs the Nevada National Security Sites. And I was fortunate enough last fall to be named president of that great company. And we are just really, really excited. There weren't a lot of reasons I was going to move from our 27th home. My wife and I's 27th home. But this was probably about the only reason we were going to leave Colorado Springs to move anywhere, because I'm so excited about this mission. The Nevada National Security Sites is made up, of course, of our Nevada National Security Site, which is about 65 miles north of where I am right now in Las Vegas. It's a site larger than Rhode Island, and as I always tell people, it's a lot more interesting than Rhode Island. We do a lot of incredibly cool and important national security work. So we have about when you carrying all our subcontractors and teammates and everybody, we're over 4,000 people. And what we do is, as our motto is, we secure America's future, because, as you know better than anybody, the foundation of our security as a nation and of our allies' security is our nuclear deterrent. And we are focused on making sure that nuclear deterrent is safe, secure, and effective. Now, as you know, I know you had one of our historians on the podcast not too long ago, Darwin Morgan, and he told you about the incredible history of the site. And that history is of close to 1,000 nuclear tests, both above ground and below ground. He told you about all the cool stuff we do. Well, we still are focused. Our primary mission is stockpile stewardship, right? It is making sure that our nuclear deterrent is safe, secure, and effective. And we do it in a myriad of ways. A lot of it is focused on pulse power work. It's focused on we go about 1,000 feet underground in our U1A areas, and we do the experiments that are necessary. We call them subcritical experiments that are necessary to ensure that this stockpile is, as I said, safe, secure, and effective. And so we have we coordinate with all the other labs. We work with them. They come and they do work on our sites, and that is the focus of our main thrust, which is making sure that our stockpile is safe, secure, and effective. It's the old stockpile stewardship model. When we stopped testing back in 1992, we said, hey, we as a nation will be able to certify that these weapons are safe, secure, and effective if we put the science in, if we do the work, and that is stockpile stewardship. And there's so much of that goes into ensuring that happens. We, of course, play an integral part of it. We're not a lab. We're not a production site. But we are, just as it says, we do the testing and the experiments that make things necessary. 300 miles of roads up there, and that is one focus, but we have so much more. We also do what I call save the world stuff, which is defense nonproliferation, nuclear nonproliferation. We do a lot of work in nuclear forensics, nuclear detection, nuclear attribution. We do also a lot of other national security work simply because the site is remote. It does allow stuff to be done on our site that cannot be done anywhere else in the nation and sometimes in the world. So we also, just as an aside, we do other things to help. Well, we have a lot of special forces work out there. We have drone work. We have our own drone UAS range. We do, NASA recently came back in the 60s and 70s. We trained all the Apollo astronauts here how to use moon rovers, everything, because guess what? We have about 875 craters that are useful for that. And they've recently come back. The Artemis crews are now training on our site. So it is a wide array of what goes on at that site, but also, wait, there's more. We also run the Special Technologies Lab, which is in Santa Barbara, California. There's a group of people. Of course, it was all focused on the nuclear deterrent mission. It still is, but now it does a host of other issues. I like to say it's the closest thing our nation has to a James Bond Q directorate. Lots of very cool things going on in Santa Barbara. And then, of course, we have our aviation assets, which does the radiological search. We have a fleet of helicopters and airplanes working out of both Nellis Air Force Base and Andrews Air Force Base, essentially dividing the nation in two. And we do a lot of radiological search activities, making sure that people are safe at the Super Bowls, at World Series, at New Year's Eve in New York City, and New Year's Eve in Las Vegas, and almost 60 to 70 events and areas around the nation each year. So we have that. And then, of course, we have folks at each of the three big labs, Livermore, Sandia, and Los Alamos, where our folks coordinated. And one last thing we do is we do counterterrorism training. We do a lot of work for FEMA, which essentially trains people in how to mitigate, search for, help in radiological and nuclear counterterrorism issues. So a lot of our big clients are NYPD Blue, Secure Cities, FEMA, FBI, and we do a lot of that work out of Long Island, New York. So that's why we call ourselves the Nevada National Security Sites. We added the little S a few months ago to make sure that people realize that we're more than just the amazing work that happens 65 miles north of here in Las
So
Vegas.
so you spurred a few questions. My first question, I'll sort of digress a little. When you left Colorado Springs, was your wife like mine? Where my wife, she cried when we moved from Colorado Springs to Columbus, Georgia. Did your wife cry, or
Well,
was
no,
she okay with
she
it?
didn't. No, no. After 27 moves, she she doesn't do the cry anymore. Now she just gets angry. But
Yeah.
it's funny when the nice Jacobs people called me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to go work there," and I said, "Let's go. I'm in." And they go, "Oh, you want to talk to your wife?" I said, "No, I want you to talk to my wife." But well, we're having fun out here in Las Vegas, and of course we still go back to Colorado quite a bit. No, she's beyond that now. Now she just gets angry.
Well, next time we move, I'll have to tell my wife, SAC has moved 27 times. This will only be our 16th move. So we've got a long ways to go.
You have a lot of runway left, Adam. Runway left.
So let me ask you, for those that don't know, and there's a lot of folks that don't quite understand the GOCO model that, within the DOE, that the labs and production sites and others can use. And then particular how you'll have these conglomerates that'll form an LLC because you have multiple entities that want to run a lab or a site. Could you perhaps explain that a little so people understand how did we get this model and then how does it work?
Yeah, how we got the model, I'm not really sure. Other than I believe it's a historical model, based going all the way back to our early days in the 50s, and the idea was we needed a lot of academics, right? We needed this entire enterprises needed more than just say one company that specialized in metallurgy or something like that. And so this all grew out of this idea that it was a whole of nation effort, right? We're gonna learn more about nukes. We're gonna figure out what we can do, and in order to do that, it became a whole of nation thing, right? We're going to bring in experts from all over. Remember, I mean, we didn't really, we kind of stumbled in the dark a little bit back in the 50s and 60s, and we learned from absolutely every test we did. You talk to some of the old testers that are still, some of them are still around. Back when at our site Mercury in 1960, the site at Mercury, which really wasn't unincorporated, it was just part of it was the third largest city in Nevada after Las Vegas and Reno. A huge portion of energy and power went to the site instead of the rest of the state. There was an amazing amount of effort that went into this program. I was not, as a quick aside, I'll get back to your question, but when people always say, one of the things you guys in the nuclear business are stuck in a Cold War. Hey, if we were stuck in a Cold War, we would have a hell of a lot more resources, right? I mean, when we had, as almost 50,000 weapons, everything else. Don't tell me we're stuck in a Cold War, because our efforts are nowhere near what we used to do in this enterprise. But when they would talk about it, they would go and get the best and brightest from all different companies, from all different labs and areas all around, and they'd bring them together, and they were all focused on our nuclear deterrent and doing what's necessary to move that forward. So that's kind of been the legacy here. Unlike in other defense work where, if you made airplanes, you were Lockheed Martin or you were Northrop Grumman or whatever, hey, you would make an airplane and that's what you would do. And so the government would buy that airplane from that company, right? And they might have subcontractors and all this other stuff, but it was mainly that. This whole model was people working together, and the National Nuclear Security Administration and the DOE model is still the same. I don't think they're just not probably going to give major contracts out to just one company, right? I mean, they're going to look for these LLCs where three companies come together, like mine. Honeywell has very unique and great assets in an array of areas, but Jacobs complements that, and then we have Huntington Ingalls that has a long history in the nuclear business, shipbuilding, all that other stuff. So what this enterprise looks for is to build those types of teams where you have a wide breadth of experience and you could bring them in. And I'll tell you, it's seen in my company. I mean, we have some of the most brilliant physicists in our company, and then we have miners that salted earth, great miners that go down and do what miners have done for centuries, right? And they dig tunnels and holes and drifts, as they call them. And so that's the model that the Department of Energy and the National Nuclear Security Administration has stuck with throughout the decades. And so if you're a company and you want to be part of this, the chances are you're going to have to partner with other companies and come in, because it's very rare in this business where they'll give a enterprise portion to just one company. And then we do all the work. I mean, we have 22 unions. I deal with 22 unions. All of our employees, and when I say do the work, it's not that the feds aren't working, but the feds' work is oversight.
Yeah.
And so where my military background is, I'd go to the base and there'd be GS 11s and 12s and 13s, and they are working as part of my base or my team or my wing. That in this model, that's not how it works. In this model, the feds just do oversight. So and they do it from the individual sites, where each site has a contingent of feds. I have about 65 or so here in Las Vegas, and then of course they have a couple of thousand in their headquarters at the Farstall building in Washington D.C. Again, it's focused on there. So it's a totally different model than many people who are not familiar with it from DoD don't really understand that model.
And part of the reason they did it this way, and it's something you said, is that the civil service is not really built to hire in the smartest physicists and the best, chemists. And it's not built for that. And it, pay scales are not really meant for that either. And so one of the, this GoCo model allows you to sort of have flexibility to, if you want that best physicist, you can pay that best physicist. And that sort of leads me to the, this human capital issue is for you. Are you able to find, because, one of the things at the Nuclear Summit back in, February or March, was it was a big discussion about human capital and
right.
about both recruiting it and then retaining it. Is that an issue for you, or are you able to go out and find the talent you need and then retain that talent?
Oh, no, it's my biggest issue. I used to say in the Air Force, Adam, you heard me say it a million times, right? The greatest weapon system we have doesn't come with a tail number, doesn't come with a serial number, it comes with a social security number. That is the same thing here. The greatest asset I have isn't my, one of the kind pulse power things or incredible sensors or all that other stuff. Our greatest asset is our people. And it is hard. Now, I will tell you, if you've tried to build a deck at home or get people to work, it's hard to get people to work, period, right? It's hard to find people. Everybody, restaurants, everybody is that. But it is 100 times harder when these people are so highly specialized. And guess what? They have to be cleared. That means they have to be drug free, that they can't have a record. They have to have a host of all this stuff. And other people will pay more. We have here in Las Vegas, outside my condo here, I'm watching the Fontainebleau, which will be the largest hotel being built in hotel and casino in Colorado, in Las Vegas. Now, guess what? When I need a carpenter, when I need a miner, when I need an electrician, when I need an electrical engineer or mechanical engineer, it's a lot easier for those mechanical engineers, electrical engineers to go work building Fountain Blue than it is to get cleared from me. Oh, by the way, they'll pay them more, everything else. But now I'm going to ask them to drive an hour and a half one way. And then once they get into our site, they might have to drive another hour to get to their work, and then do it in reverse, after 8 or 10 hours of work. So that is just one of the issues. The other issue is we still, I have the government pays for our contract, so I have I have limits to how much I could pay an electrical engineer because the government has their well, you're in Las Vegas. This is the medium of an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, and you can't pay them that much more because all that other stuff. So we have to deal with that. Now, of course, my mechanical engineer should be paid more than the mechanical engineer working at the Fountain Blue, right? I mean, simply because of what you do. But that's the issue that we have. And so, how do we deal with it? And how do we keep it from attriting? The other problem we have in this enterprise, there's only 8 sites. Guess what? We tend to poach each other. Somebody will come from a lab and they'll work out in the desert with us, and they'll see a young engineer, a young physicist, young scientist, and they'll go, you know what? You're awesome. Why don't you come work for us? and so we tend to poach each other, but we in a lot of ways we have no choice. I mean, there's only there's a small cohort of people we can choose from, and then we have to get them cleared, and the highest security clearances in the land, by the way, not just just not a secret. So then and frankly, it's tough work. Especially here if you're going to work an hour and a half away from where you are. So retention is key to us. We try to do everything we can to be the employer of choice. But mainly what works for us is the people love the mission. They know they're making a difference, and they know they're needed. And it's something I tell them, Adam, every time. If you watch any of my videos I send out every couple of weeks, I end I end every video with the truth. And the truth is, take care of yourself. We need you. And you're making a difference. And that's the key. I tell the young engineers, the young folks, whoever they might be, that if they're going to go work for the Fountain Blue, and I'm not picking on the poor Fountain Blue people, but anybody else here, if you're going to work for them, are you really going to go home and say, hey, I made a difference and I protected my family, my children, my nation, doing that? Or are you saying, well, I just helped to make a billionaire become two times billionaire, right? I mean, so the difference is you work with us and you make a difference, and you're making a difference protecting our nation because it's the truth, and they buy into the fact, and they understand that our nuclear deterrent is the foundation, and it underwrites everything else. And so that's how we deal with it. But your original question is, it's incredibly difficult. And it's a complex algorithm on how to solve it too. I talk when we go to these conferences and everything else, and we talk about the human capital. We need to do a better job as a government, as a nation. The cell phones here. Is it so necessary to be? You can't have. You got to take everybody's cell phone away. I'll tell you, if you're a 25-year-old postdoc or whatever, and you've got 2 kids at home, you guess what? You want to be able to find out that your kid just threw up at the lunch table and needs to be picked up, right? I mean, we don't do a very good job in our enterprise of dealing with those type of workplace issues. We just, is it necessary to make everything limited? Can we allow people the opportunity to stay a little bit more connected, and I think we could do it without great risk to security. Those are things I think we all need to work on, because our 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 team right now is pretty aged, and we're in a fierce battle to get young talent, and so we need to do smarter things when it comes to that. And like I said, leaving a little more access to things like this, and allowing young workers to be a little bit more connected and to do those things that keeps them happy. The other last thing I'll say on this is, people don't like working in World War II area buildings. They don't like working in trailers. We need to recapitalize some of our work areas, and we are doing that, I think, very well in Nevada, at Nevada National Security Sites. We are, and hopefully you'll come visit us sometime soon, and you'll see our new ops center, things like that. That makes a huge difference too. Let's get out of these 1950s buildings, and make a little bit of investment in our people, and I think better equipment, things like that, and I think that'll go a long way to solve that talent issue that we all have.
This episode of NucleCast is brought to you by the AMLA Deterrence Center, whose mission is to educate Americans about the nuclear enterprise and strategic deterrence. So one of the questions that I often get asked, when it comes to testing, I'm often asked, under what conditions do you think testing would become a necessity? And so, I'll pass that question on to you.
I will give you my personal opinion. I don't think we're ever going to test again. I think stockpile stewardship has worked superbly. I'm incredibly confident. That was the idea. If we invest in the science, if we do as a nation the right things, so the 3 lab directors and our nation and everybody else will be able to certify our stockpile without testing. I think our work with supercomputers, what we're doing is I don't think it's going to be necessary, and we certainly have no intention of ever doing it. Is it possible? Yes. But in my view, the national emergency would need to be incredibly severe. And then people always ask me the same thing. Well, okay, you're at the test site here. How long would it take? And well, it depends, right? I mean, what are you trying to do, right? What do you want to do? What data do you want? It's just. There's no real answer to that, because we would have to know, again, what the emergency is, what the national emergency is, and then what you're trying to accomplish with it. So, are we prepared? Can we do it? Of course we can. Of course we can. We're the United States of America. We've got the best brains and talent and everything else. Is it necessary? No. If it has to happen, we will respond as this nation always did, and it would happen. But there's certainly no need for it, and there's certainly I don't believe, and it's my personal opinion, I don't believe we'll ever do it again. But if we do, if we had to, and a nation asked us to do it, this enterprise would accomplish it safely and effectively.
So it's that time in the show where I bring out, I don't know if you ever did this, but when I was in the desert many moons ago, I found a genie in a bottle. His name is Bob, and he's already granted me my 3 wishes. But he's willing to grant you your 3 wishes as it relates to the Nevada National Security Site. So, Bob, As Bob comes out, you've got
Yeah.
3 wishes. What are they, Sack?
Well, that's an interesting question. I would say one that we get the best and brightest of America's talent to do this. It's incredibly important that we have really cool gadgets and things at Silicon Valley, and that we that we do all the cool things this nation does, and our Starbucks coffee is great and everything else, and we have great electric cars and everything else. But um, uh, there was a time when our best and brightest uh, thought right off the bat, I am going to go work for the defense of our nation, whether that would be in the United States military or in national security issues. So my wish is that we would get more of that talent. We would be able to get more propensed and motivated young people to consider serving our nation in whether it be in a nuclear deterrent or in the military or whatever, because of course we're all one team, one fight on that. Next, second, wish that we continue to have a we do those things as a nation to make sure that our nuclear deterrent remains safe, secure, and effective. And what does that mean? That means recapitalization. That means we never go back to the 20 or 30-year era where we just atrophied the nuclear deterrent and everybody who worked there. I always said, sure, we took a procurement holiday, but the most damaging thing was our intellectual holiday when we didn't think at all about the importance of this. That has changed. I've seen the change. I like to think I was a small part of that. In the Air Force, when I was the A-10 and the Nuclear Weapons Center commander, we did a lot of things that focused everybody back on the nuclear deterrent and the need for it and the value of it. But I'm telling you, this game of keeping people focused on the value of this, it's like when you bring your kids to Chuck E. Cheese, right? What's the worst game at Chuck E. Cheese? Whack-a-mole. Why? Because your beer's getting warm and your pizza's getting cold and the damn game never ends. And getting people to stay focused on the value of our nuclear deterrent is a game that does not end. And my wish is that we continue the focus and everybody does it. And then I guess my last wish would be that we as Americans actually value the contributions of all those, whether it's our men and women in uniform that are focusing on our nuclear deterrent, and or the people, the physicists, the chemists, the miners, everybody that is working in that we value that, and when I mean value, it is we invest in them, and we don't treat them as a commodity. As something that we need them now, but we don't need it, and we do all those things necessary to make sure that we retain them and they have the type of career that folks had, back in the 60s and 70s, where they knew that they were valued as a nation, and what they were doing was important. And we do those things to keep them. So I guess those would be my 3 if Bob could do that for me.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thanks for joining us on NucleCast.
Well, hey, it's great to see you again, Adam, and I look forward to having you and your team come visit us out in Nevada. If you haven't been out in a while, you will not recognize it. I tell people all the time, if you were out at the site 10 years ago, you haven't been out the site. The amount of work we're doing today, the varied things that we're doing is phenomenal, and we invite people to come out and see it. So please come out and see us.
Awesome. I don't think I've been there since 2017, so I'll look
Well,
forward
then
to
you
that.
haven't been there because we've changed a lot in the last 6 years.
Well, thanks to you, and thanks to you, the listeners, and we will see you on the next episode of NucleCast.
All right. Thanks, Adam.
Well, it was great to talk to Zach again. I hadn't seen him in a few years, and it's interesting to hear what's going on at the Nevada National Security Site. I always want to call it the Nevada Test Site, but Nevada National Security Site. There's a lot going on. There were some things that Zach said about these other elements, the lab in Santa Barbara and some other elements that he talked about that I didn't really know that was a Nevada, entity or part of what they did. So that was interesting to see all of those things and to hear a little bit about how they support stockpile stewardship and, science efforts of the weapons labs. So it was an interesting discussion. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well.
This has been a production of the ANWA Deterrence Center. Our executive producer is Kimberly Charrington, and this episode has been engineered and mixed by David Krumthal. Follow the show on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter at NucleCast. Listen, follow, and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.